Hello, and thanks for tuning into this video. My name is Owen Raskovich. I'm the lead analyst for the Rask Rockets Beyond mission. So what is Rask Rockets Beyond? Well, to explain that, I've got to explain what the Rask Rockets program is. The Rask Rockets program is a yearly program that we run here at Rask Australia. It's where our analyst team identify our top 10 small cap companies listed on the ASX. So we define that as any company below $300 million. Not every company that we identify has a market capitalization below $300 million. Some companies may be a bit bigger than that, but they have to have outsized potential. So we're looking for smaller companies that could be tomorrow's winners today. We're taking a long-term view, and by that we mean 3, 5, or 10 years out into the future. Not 3, 5, or 10 months, 3, 5, or 10 years out into the future. From about 1,500 companies, we try and get the list down to around 40 to 60 companies through a filtering process. And then we run that through a liquidity screen to ensure that there are a sufficient number of shares available for our investors to buy into. And then we run it through our internal filters where our analysts take a look at the companies to decide if the company has a reputable management team, a good product or service, has a large market, an addressable market, or a niche market that it can win. Then we look at the balance sheet and ensure that these companies have sufficient financial strength. Then we look at companies from the perspective of their return potential. So is this company at an inflection point? Is it hitting its stride in terms of operating leverage? And so on and so forth. We eventually get down to a list of around about 10 to 20 companies. And we typically then go and reach out to management if we are interested in speaking to them. We record our CEO interviews so we can share them with our members when we release our research on our top 10 companies. So our members inside the Rask Rockets programs or inside the Rask Rockets Beyond mission this year will receive a report and typically a CEO interview to accompany that report. Some of the CEOs are pretty hard to get a hold of because they're focused intensely on growing their businesses, but we do our best to try and get them on to speak directly to our members. The Rask Rockets Beyond mission is not for everyone. It's not for beginner investors, and it's not for investors who want a hands-off approach. The Rask Rockets Beyond program, our Beyond mission rather, is for people who want hands-on exposure, direct exposure to some of tomorrow's biggest companies today. We've identified companies from technology to industrials and to pretty much every sector of the market, maybe excluding resources this year. We're looking for companies, like I said, that meet all of those quality filters like you would associate with a larger company, but might be disrupting a market or moving faster than the market to try and achieve returns that exceed the market's return over the long term. There have been a few things to note since we first launched our Rask Rockets Apollo program, which identified 10 small cap companies. The first is that many of our members are really engaged with the companies. Most of the members who join this program are adept at investing themselves. They come with years of experience and they are eager to find these companies themselves. And we kind of facilitate that process by taking a lot of the grunt work out and create a fantastic shortlist and watch list for those investors who then pursue themselves. Another thing is the companies that we identify typically are on either end of the spectrum. We identify companies that have significant outsized potential that go on to fulfill some or all of that potential. And then at the other end of the spectrum, some of the companies tend to fail or tend to flop. If you think of a backyard rocket, they're the ones that come up and go straight back down. That is part and parcel of the way we invest in small cap companies here at Rask Australia. We're willing to take an increased level of risk to try and identify those 1, 2, or 3 companies each year that have that potential and can go on to deliver. Like I said, we're looking 3, 5, or 10 years out into the future. So many of our members understand that they're going to endure significant amounts of volatility, i.e. ups and downs in share prices, between now and that potential being fulfilled. And that's perfectly okay because our definition of risk at Rask Australia is not necessarily volatility. But we do advocate for anyone that's considering joining any of our Rask Rockets programs to consider that this program should not form the core or the bedrock of anyone's portfolio. This is more for that tactical allocation, for that risk-on exposure. The exposure you want to have because you're interested in investing and you want to be an active investor in growing companies. We think that one of the best approaches to this is to use an equal weight approach when it comes to actually allocating to all 10 companies. So that means if you have $20,000, $50,000 or $100,000, you would spread that evenly over the 10 companies. And you wouldn't start by investing it all at once. You might, for example, start with the smallest possible size now until you get really comfortable with the company and you can carefully consider all of the risks and the opportunity. And then over a matter of months or even years, you allocate more to the winners and you take some chips off the table of those companies that simply aren't performing. We think this is a good approach because our experience has shown with members that many of them try to pick and choose which companies they have the most conviction in. And while that is a great thing to do, and we encourage all of our members to do that, to fully and carefully read our research and all of the risks that we outline, what we've found is that some members end up missing out on the really high-performing companies and are unlucky and go overweight or invest more in companies that tend to underperform. Fortunately, we haven't had too many underperformers so far, and while it is early days inside the Rask Rockets program, we're pretty happy with the progress so far. You can view our track record on the Rask Australia website. That's www.rask.com.au website. Keeping in mind that past performance is not indicative of future performance, I would encourage you to take a look at our mission statement and what we're actually trying to achieve with these small companies. We're trying to identify companies with high-quality attributes like aligned management teams, experienced management teams, industry-leading products or services, compelling valuations, and large opportunities in front of them. These are just some of the things that we carefully consider before we release any research on these 10 companies. This year's mission is going to be an exciting one. We're going beyond. This is the second installment of the Rask Rockets program, and I'm excited as ever for our biggest launch to date. Thanks for taking the time to consider the Rask Rockets Beyond mission and program, and as always, onwards and upwards.